Welcome back to Kdramas Decoded, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode of your favorite K-drama. Episode 7 of Flex X Cop Season 2 takes a dramatic turn when a seemingly impossible stage accident turns into a murder investigation, and the detectives soon discover that the victim had far more enemies and secrets than anyone expected. The episode begins on a surprisingly emotional note. One of the detectives visits a familiar restaurant and meets an elderly man who remembers him from years ago. The man's wife passed away the previous year, still desperate to know whether her missing son, Sijun, was alive or dead. Even now, she apparently dreams about him and hopes that someone will find him so that she can at least give him a proper funeral. But there is little time to dwell on the past, because another unresolved case is still haunting the detectives. The investigation into Yoo Seong-won continues to weigh heavily on the team. One detective admits that he believes Seong-won will kill again and insists that he has to stop him. His colleagues warn him that his obsession could ultimately destroy his career, but he refuses to let the case go. Soon after, the team gets together for a much more cheerful occasion. A detective reunites with an old friend who has recently returned to Korea, and the two immediately start joking around. The friend proudly shows off his artwork and even performs a ridiculous little magic trick using a secret compartment and a rather questionable amount of nose oil. The group then heads to a magic show together. They are excited to see the performances, although one detective remains convinced that magic is basically just a scam. His friend quickly corrects him, insisting that magic is an art form combining science and performance. The main magician, Park Yi-ha, then begins his performance. He tells the audience about a woman he loves and explains that she had an unhappy childhood because of her violent father. He says he wanted to make her smile. But the romantic performance suddenly becomes a nightmare. A fire breaks out on stage, and Park Yi-ha becomes trapped inside a coffin-like magic apparatus. Despite everyone's attempts to help, he fails to escape and dies during the performance. The police immediately take control of the scene. At first, the death appears to be a tragic accident. The escape mechanism was supposedly working correctly, and the magician should have been able to escape through the bottom of the coffin. However, something doesn't add up. The stage staff insist that they check the equipment before the show and found nothing wrong. The detectives therefore begin examining the coffin itself and questioning everyone involved with the performance. One particularly strange witness is a woman who had given Yi-ha a tarot reading before the show. She claims she had warned him to be careful because she had seen his death in a dream. According to her, she has experienced prophetic dreams since childhood and had even predicted the death of her grandfather. She says she saw Yi-ha dying the night before his final performance. When she warned him, however, Yi-ha simply responded that he would treat it as his final performance and give it everything he had. That statement immediately catches the detective's attention. It almost sounds as though Yi-ha knew he was going to die. The investigation then leads them to Yi-ha's twin brother, Park Yi-young. Unlike Yi-ha, who performed on stage, Yi-young worked behind the scenes designing and maintaining the magic equipment. The twins had originally performed a famous teleportation act together, using the simple trick of switching places because they were identical. But their partnership ended after Yi-young was seriously injured in an accident. Years earlier, the twins had been involved in a drunk driving accident. Yi-ha had been driving while intoxicated, yet somehow escaped almost completely unharmed. Yi-young, who had been sitting beside him, suffered a severe spinal injury and became unable to walk. Yi-young tells the detectives that he had warned his brother about using dangerous fuel in the magic equipment. He had repeatedly told him that an accident could happen, but Yi-ha always believed he was lucky and that nothing bad would ever happen to him. That history immediately makes Yi-young suspicious. The detectives begin wondering whether jealousy could have motivated him. Yi-ha was living the glamorous life, performing magic, becoming popular and dating multiple women, while his twin brother was confined to a wheelchair because of an accident that Yi-ha had caused. One detective even becomes convinced that Yi-young may secretly be able to walk. During their investigation, he notices what he believes is a strange reaction from Yi Young's legs. He begins theorizing that Yi Young has been pretending to be paralyzed and secretly murdered his brother out of jealousy. His colleague isn't completely convinced, but the theory is intriguing enough to investigate. Then the case takes an even messier turn. The detectives discover that Yi-ha had not been dating one woman. He had been dating 7. His phone contains records identifying 7 different women as his honeys, with each woman apparently assigned a different day of the week. The detectives track down several of them, and chaos immediately breaks out. 2 women at the memorial service both claim to have been Yi-ha's true girlfriend. One insists that they had been together for 50 days, while another claims Yi-ha had promised to marry her. Both have gifts from him and genuinely believed they were special. Then they discover the horrifying truth. Neither woman was actually his only girlfriend. Yi-ha had been seeing 7 women simultaneously. Even worse, he appears to have told each of them a different version of the same romantic story. One woman remembers him proposing to her on one knee. Another says they were looking for a house together. Someone else claims they were planning to register their marriage the following month. The detectives realize that Yi-ha wasn't simply popular. He was an extremely skilled womanizer. Some of the women had even lent him large amounts of money after he invented various emergencies, including car accidents and needing money for a new home. Yet none of them seems to have known about the others. That makes the list of potential suspects much larger. The detectives investigate whether one of the women could have discovered the truth and decided to kill him. But the case soon points in another direction. They discover that someone had deliberately poured kerosene into the coffin. The normal performance used a special type of oil, but traces of kerosene are found inside the apparatus. Because kerosene burns much more intensely, someone had clearly tampered with the equipment so that Yi-ha would be unable to escape once the fire started. This confirms that the death was not an accident. It was murder. The detectives then examine the timing of the incident. The coffin had been inspected around 4:30 p.m. The performance began at 5 p.m., and the fire broke out around 5:50 p.m. That leaves a crucial window of time in which someone could have tampered with the equipment. Since the coffin was kept inside Yi Young's research room, the detectives begin wondering whether he could have secretly left the building, altered the apparatus, and returned without being caught on CCTV. The wheelchair becomes an important part of the theory. If Yi Young really can walk, he could have used a route without CCTV and returned before the performance. But just when the detectives think they may have found their killer, another connection appears. The police discover that a group of intimidating men were present at the magic show. Their investigation leads them to Ham Seong-wook, a notorious former crime boss known as Hammurabi. Seong-wook had previously served a long prison sentence for ordering a murder. Now, his name is connected to Yi-ha through something much more personal. His only daughter, Ham Soo-jeong, is revealed to be the 7th woman on Yi-ha's list of girlfriends. And unlike the others, Soo-jeong cannot currently be contacted. She had traveled to Los Angeles a week earlier and wasn't answering her phone. The detectives immediately suspect that her father may have discovered that Yi-ha was dating his daughter and wanted revenge. Then they realize something even more important. The magic performance itself was about Soo-jeong. Yi-ha's story about a woman suffering because she had a violent father suddenly takes on a completely different meaning. Could Ham Seong-wook have watched the performance 3 days earlier, studied the coffin, and secretly planned to use the same trick to murder Yi-ha? The theory is that he could have entered backstage, tampered with the coffin using kerosene, and then allowed Yi-ha to die publicly during the performance. But there is one major question. If Seong-wook wanted Yi-ha dead, why didn't he simply kill him 3 days earlier when he had the opportunity? The detectives aren't sure. They decide that the only way to get answers is to confront Seong-wook directly. Unfortunately, he refuses to cooperate. When the detectives eventually track down his location, they encounter his intimidating men first. One of them admits that he confronted Yi-ha 3 days before the murder because Yeehaw had been involved with their young lady. The threat was supposedly just a warning. But now the detectives know there was a very good reason for Seongwook to hate Yeehaw. They need to find out whether that hatred went as far as murder. Meanwhile, another mystery begins developing in the background. The detectives are also investigating an old accident involving Yeehaw and Yeyoung, and they discover a surprising connection to Seongwook. The car involved in the twins' accident was registered to someone connected to him. Suddenly, the old accident that left Yeyoung paralyzed may not have been as straightforward as everyone thought. Could Yeehaw's death somehow be connected to that accident? And was Yeyoung really just an innocent victim of his brother's reckless driving? By the end of the episode, the detectives are dealing with multiple possible motives. There is the jealous twin who may have secretly regained the ability to walk. There are 7 girlfriends, any one of whom could have discovered Yeehaw's betrayal. And then there is Ham Seongwook, a powerful gangster whose daughter was allegedly one of Yeehaw's victims. Just when the case seems impossible to untangle, the detectives discover one final bombshell. Soo-jeong wasn't simply another girlfriend. She was the daughter of Ham Seongwook. And the story Yeehaw performed on stage about a woman with a violent father may have been directly inspired by her. So was the performance actually part of the murderer's plan? Did someone deliberately turn Yeehaw's own magic trick into his death trap? And most importantly, was his twin brother really as helpless as he appeared? With the investigation now pointing in several completely different directions, the detectives are left with one thing certain. Park Yeehaw's death was no accident. Someone carefully planned the fire. And whoever did it knew exactly how the magic trick worked. The real question is whether the killer was motivated by love, jealousy, revenge, or something from the twins' past that the detectives have yet to uncover.